Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Claims Never Sleep. I'm joined again by my co host, Jen. Hey, Jen, how's it going?
It's good. I'm very excited about this one. I think we have found one of the best and nicest supervisors that we have interviewed yet.
I agree. I agree. Today we're joined by Kristen O'Reilly. And, Kristen, she has an interesting path in the sense that she, got her training at a pretty large carrier that's well known for like top notch training. Um, and then, was there for a long time and just decided to make a pivot and move over to a broker. And now she works as a representative for high net worth clients, which is fascinating of itself because more money, more problems sometimes.
Yes.
So, and she's just an all around great person. So let's bring her in and have her talk about it.
This is the Claims Never Sleep podcast, presented by Cruiser Mitchell, with your host, Meghan Henry.
Good morning, Kristen. Welcome to this episode of Claims Never Sleep. I am so happy to see you today. How are you doing?
Good morning, Meghan. I'm doing great. Thank you. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Thank you, ladies, so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I have to start this, but I'm loving your backdrop. I love the green and the brightness. Like, it must make you feel happy every day.
It does. I tried to, the first 3 months I was here, I didn't bring anything in. Because I'm always like, they're going to let you go.
Isn't that a weird mentality? I would always have, I'm like, I can't, as soon as I hang a thing on the wall, it's going to be my last day.
Yeah. So you get nervous. But once I did, I actually went out with my niece. She's very creative and she came up with colors and all of these. So I always get a lot of compliments on my office. So it makes me, I very happy about that.
Yeah, I like love it. I love the artwork. And I should take a few notes from like maybe it's your niece's book.
She's available anytime. She loves to shop and create. So anyone who needs office work, Abby Pay is available. I could give her your name at the end of the podcast.
Well, anyway, Kristen, you and I talked a few weeks ago, and well, I should actually bring us back. Like you and I had talked like months and months ago, and it wasn't a good time for you to talk about the podcast. And then we reconnected a few weeks ago because it was a much better time for you.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that we reconnected. And that you're able to come on and talk about your journey through claims, and where you're at now. And your story, like everybody else's, is super interesting because everyone's path is so different and how we bob and weave into claims and law and in and out. But if you don't mind, like share what was your journey into claims?
It is very interesting. I always wanted to be, I was a history major in college and I wanted to take that and go on to be a lawyer, as you two ladies are. I still think I'm a lawyer in my mind, but I'm not. I never did that. So I graduated in a time that wasn't a lot of jobs available. And my sister-in-law's father, Jim King, was very high up and well-known at New Jersey manufacturers. And he got me my first job and it was going to be in insurance. And I thought I'll stay there for a year, as most people do. You think, I have no interest in anything about this. And now 25 years later, I'm still involved in it. So with NJM, you they took you through their education there was incredible. So everything they did that you went through rating, you went through homeowners, you went through auto, and then they would sort of decide where you belonged. And I ended up being an underwriter for flood. And I think the year was the year before Hurricane Sandy. And when Hurricane Sandy hit, NJM, we covered, I think, motor.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
At that time. And it was NFIP. So people were calling and complaining. And we went from being underwriters to there wasn't really anyone who was a representative for claims because it wasn't something that ever really happened. And at the time, my manager asked me if I would become a claims representative where I would negotiate between the insured and the NFIP and their adjusters to see what was happening. So I kind of was just thrown right into it. Not much background except for underwriting flood, and really became, I guess, my thing of thinking I was a lawyer. Started to try and negotiate with all the representatives, and we must have had maybe 30,000 claims at that time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it was pretty remarkable.
Well, one thing though, I've heard a lot, and you and I talked about it on the phone though, and you touched on it, is the training experience at NJM was very high quality, and also in the sense that it's so customer service driven. And I think that lends well to like your current position as well, because you're currently dealing with like high net worth clients. And I think that background, don't you think that kind of paved the way for you to give exceptional service?
Absolutely. I don't think I could have the job I have now, which is being personal manager for private client, high net worth for one digital insurance company. It's not an insurance company. I say it's one digital. It's actually similar to Marsh McLellan, AIG, where they do everything. And without that customer, because you do expect a certain level of service, and NJM really taught that. And you became to care, I think, because of claims. You cared about each customer and wanting to help them. I would have people, my brother and sister-in-law have a home in Beach Haven on LBI. So giving that personal thing, I would say, well, where are you located? Or where is this person located? And then I would have people ask me to stop by and have a drink of wine if I was in the area after having their claims. And I would have people tell me what they were driving, when was I stopping by? So it became, you started to really care about the customer and wanting to do the best by them. So absolutely, it taught me how people wanted to be treated, how it was so devastating for so many people. And it really, I think it changed me. Even when I went into sales in between, it really, the claims helped me. I would advise everyone should have to have some time in claims when they're dealing with insurance.
Go ahead.
So you started off in underwriting, got kind of thrown into claims just because of Hurricane Sandy. And then how long did you stay in claims, or was that just kind of a short stint to cover that
That's
loss?
a great question, Jen, because believe it or not, to complete all of those claims from the flood, it took 6 years.
Oh my.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of, and when I say 6 years, it didn't mean that everyone was made whole.
No.
So, but it took 6 years to finally have that final negotiation. There were people that there was one street I remember, it was in Beach Haven West, and they had a whole thing where everyone's foundations from the storm were damaged on the whole street. And one street, the NFIP adjuster said, no, his thing was not damaged. So next thing you know, you're dealing with engineers. We had an engineer that had to go out and check it out. And then you had to kind of have a discussion again with the NFIP. So that took, you can imagine, a long time, where all of his neighbors were being helped out. It was really, things just took forever.
And it's interesting because, I was in claims at that time, and I was handling professional lines. And I remember they told us, like, hey, there's a big storm coming, so we may need to pull some of you to help with this. And we're all kind of looking around like, we don't know what we're doing. We handle EPL and like D&O claims. Like, are you kidding me? And so I don't think if you were to wrap your head around how difficult that is as well, to be pulled from what you're doing and get thrown into these catastrophe claims.
And Jen, that's such a great point. Everyone I talk to, I know at NJM, I know at every company, you're right. It was everybody. it didn't matter who you are, get on the phones and help these people. And
Yeah.
the nerves of you're thinking, please don't ring.
Well, and I also just think that storm was so different in the sense that I think the area hadn't seen something like that before. The damage was so catastrophic. And even though I think everyone knew it was a large storm, I don't think anyone anticipated the volume of damage that would ensue thereafter. So, it was very Katrina-like in the sense of the damage that it was just nothing that I think New Jersey and Connecticut and Long Island and all those states, it just didn't. They get hurricanes, but nothing like that. I mean, it was not expected.
No, I remember driving down and seeing Holgate, and the whole town had almost looked like, I would say, a war zone.
Yeah,
it almost looked like someone had dropped a bomb, and you couldn't imagine how much damage can be done until then from water, from windstorms, from everything. And I think it changed insurance forever.
Yeah. And I wanted to touch back on this to what you were saying about like customer service. So, and trying to, your goal is always to help. It just made me think of this last week. I was talking to a friend of mine who had a water claim and was, filed the claim with their insurance company, and it was kind of coming to me like, what should I do from here on out? Because he got on the phone and within 2 seconds, the adjuster was like, yeah, this looks like it's going to be denied. I was like, whoa, I didn't even give this any more thought. And he was like, I think I need to rethink my insurance company. He's like, I never had to file a claim before, so I didn't think about this part. But, and I was like, I agree. I think after this, you might need to shop around, because you didn't even give this a few minutes of thought. Never, like, it was an immediate verbal denial without any follow-up questions. I was like, yeah. But that goes to show there's difference. There's a difference between companies and training and, what, serving your insureds looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely think that now and today, with One Digital and GMG, which is the agency that I work for under One Digital, we have about 40 companies that we can go through to help you find the right company. And Megan, I think the most important thing, I mean, obviously price matters, and I understand that, but if you do have a claim, you want to make sure you are with the best company, because you're correct. One of our insureds had an auto accident where they weren't at fault with a company that we don't represent, and they asked me to handle it, and I'm still recovering from how it's handled. You're exactly right. Some people, I didn't know if I was talking to AI or a person, because they're just reading off a thing and saying it's done, and there weren't any adjusters. You call up, you get a different customer service agent all the time, and then they would just send someone out for photographs, and they go to the same shop, and they may have 10 people at that shop, and they'll take 10 photographs of different cars. And it took, again, about 6 weeks for this person to get their car repaired for something that should have been simple.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, like, an older person or someone who doesn't have someone to help them.
Right. Yeah. Like my mom has a place in Florida and was affected by Helene last year, and she's older, so I helped her out with her claims, also because she was so confused about the entire process, and it was really hard to navigate with. I was having a hard time navigating, familiar with this process. Now, things were a little I had to go through the homeowners association, then the insurance company, and then you have FEMA involved. So, but like, my mom couldn't have handled that. Like, she didn't understand the difference between the public adjuster. She's like, well, that's the insurance company. I'm like, it's not the insurance company. Like, but like, it was a very confusing process. And if I wasn't there to help her, I don't even know if she would have seen a dime. To be honest, like, her place, I don't even know she would have gotten the remediation done.
No, and even the remediation, some of the companies will come in and they'll just tell them, you always want to call your insurance company first to see what are they going to cover, what amount they're going to cover. And that's a huge thing with the floods. And it's not saying there's a lot of great remediation companies. And that's where you want to call your agent, call your insurance company. Who should I go to? Because some will come in and charge a drastic amount and they're not going to pay it. They may pay some of it, obviously, but I've seen where it could be charged $20,000 when it should have been 10 or 9. And how do you tell someone then they're out of $11,000? It's who's just had a terrible damage to their home.
Yes. Yeah, and in Florida it's compounded because none of these places have flood insurance. So it's it's all related to something else. So it's there's that issue.
It is. I just had a home in Florida where they offered us to offer our client home insurance, but with no water damage and no wind damage. Well, except for a fire.
Yeah.
So and at $14,000 a year. So
Wow.
it's very thing. So you're seeing a lot of people in Florida right now that are very underinsured. And you can't blame them. So the fear is if something happens, and it did happen with the last storm, they're completely don't have the money to rebuild.
Yeah, I noticed this last spring when I was down there, there was like just houses that still had the sandbags out because it was just like people were like, I'm not even going to bother. Like, it's not even worth trying to rehab this house.
It's insane. This is going to be a very 2025 statement. There's this woman I follow on TikTok who lives in Florida, and her house has flooded like completely twice. And now
Wait, is this the doctor?
Yes,
I love her. I love hearing about her storm damage and her medical commentary. Okay,
she does a little bit of claims and medical help. That's a good.
She's an emergency room physician, and she talks about her home in Florida, but she's now putting it up on stilts, like at her own cost, because she doesn't want to move. And I'm sure if she tried to move, who's going to buy this house that's in a flood zone that's been flooded twice? But then you think like, who is also insuring this risk now? That it's showing that it can happen again. And of course, that's where my mind goes when she's talking about what's going on with her house. But can you imagine undertaking the cost on your own to lift up your house onto stilts?
Yes.
And that's a big point now too, that myself and my colleagues are really having to really have that discussion. When you get insurance, you don't want to file a claim anymore. And that's so you can imagine the reaction that, well, why do I have insurance for? Unless you want to, I would advise everyone to hire your deductibles to the amount that you can afford. Obviously, there's people that can't afford to pay out.
Yeah.
But as you said, once you have that second claim, you're probably going to have to go to excess. You're not admitted carriers aren't going to take you. And if you have a claim now, it used to be you filed a claim, you didn't think about it. And now the first year is probably about a 40% charge you're going to get. And the amount could be $1,500 that was paid out. So we're trying to get people to increase their deductibles. It's not a huge savings, believe it or not, premium wise, but it's going to save you if you have a small claim that you are not going to have to pay this amount.
We actually had 3 car accidents and a tree fall in our house last year.
And I was going to ask you to send your deck pages to me, but now I'm not. Thank you.
Yeah. And so one of them, we ate the one. Because it was just like, and they were none of that. It was 2 deer. My husband and I both hit a deer, and then he slid on ice and ran into a guardrail. And so we just ate the third accident because we were just like, and I forgot to mention, and I've talked about this on here before, my husband forgot to insure the car. He forgot to call and tell them he got a new car.
Which I get.
And my insurance company was they haven't dropped us. and
Yeah.
they paid, but we also did not, we also didn't argue with them, right? So when the tree fell on the house and they're like, this is what we're going to give you. I was like, okay, I'm going to take it and I'm going to replace the floor and, I'll trash the furniture, and I'm not saying another thing because, and that's what my agent told. He's there. We wanted to shop around this year. And they're like, you can't. No one's going to insure you. Like, you had way too many accidents happen last year.
Yeah. Now is not the time for you.
Yeah.
No, I'll call you in about 3 years.
Yeah. So Kristen, let's talk a little bit about how it's different though now when you're dealing with like high net worth insureds. Like, I mean, some things stay the same, right? But now we're not talking about people who can't afford a higher deductible. Obviously it's a different level of income that we're talking about, but it doesn't mean the problems go away. And it doesn't mean that the claims, there's still going to be claims, and they're probably just more expensive ones.
More expensive, and in areas, I mean, obviously you have money, you want to go to the most beautiful areas in the country. So we have a lot of people in Laguna Beach, California that we insure, a lot of Orange County. We insure a lot of New Hope, so that has the river area. There's people we insure in Kentucky, Illinois, where you think there's not issues. There's huge issues now with tornadoes. Roofs have become a huge issue. So with the higher end, it's become, you're right, Megan, I find this job really interesting because it's actually harder to get insurance for higher end because of being in these areas.
Yeah. So I imagine though, so you're looking at primary homes, secondary homes, but then probably, boats and high-end cars, planes. I mean, I'm sure you're looking at a lot of those high-ticket items.
And you have to find the right insurance. You obviously want to combine it. And that used to be the thing too, was easy. Just go to this company or that company and they'll insure everything. Now it's kind of almost a detective piece. Which company is going to take this? Which company is going to take that? Very interesting. And the biggest thing I would say for high net worth people are getting the higher liability, as you know, as lawyers, to protect their assets, because that's another thing that's changed in the last couple of years. Lawsuits have gone through. I think I just read one place, 1.2 million was the average payout for a lawsuit. And I think
the average?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think one law firm, they actually promoted, they got 1.2 million. And also Wall Street has gotten involved. That hedge fund people are giving the money. And I think too, they're getting about 25% they're earning on a lawsuit, which I think any Wall Street person would be happy to do. So that is our biggest thing. Is it used to be maybe 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, no matter how much money you had, you were fine really at that amount. Now 10 million, you're kind of questioning, is that the right amount for a high net worth person?
Yeah. Wow.
And it's crazy because my dad called me the other day and he's like, do you think I still needed my umbrella policy? And I said, yeah, for the amount that you're going to spend on it. Yes.
Oh yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy because you just never know, right? You never know what's going to happen. And to try like $1.2 million for an average lawsuit, like that's insane.
It's insane. And it could be people they're calling it social inflation. And what's happening is some of the juries, people who are having issues with their own money, they want to pay out certain things. So you have all these things happening. You have the marketing. If you go down 95 if you're heading down to the city in Philadelphia, I think every billboard is somebody saying, call me. So they have the marketing, they have hedge fund people after them. So you definitely, you told your dad the right thing. Protect yourself. I would recommend anybody to have at least 1 million umbrella. You can get it for about $200 to $300
Yeah.
a year, and it's well worth it. And it covers your legal defenses.
Yeah.
They'll do that, which we know anything. That's a huge expense too. If you had to hire a lawyer on your own.
Yeah. So, but I imagine with many of your insureds or your clients that you're also working with a sophisticated group, right? Who are probably more knowledgeable about the process. So I'm sure that could have its challenges as well too, because they might be more attuned to what's happening and ask you, like, push you a little bit or push you on decisions, or not that others would not, but when you could work in the industry, right, and just have an innate knowledge of what the insurance process is.
Absolutely, and they have their own lawyer.
Yes,
they have their own financial advisor. So I've in this job since I started in January with One Digital, and it's been great. It's the NJM was a company that was over 120 years, I think. One Digital is 25 years. They just celebrated. And it was two men that just came together and started this company. It was employee business. And now we are in the top 20 of top insurance brokers in the world. So, and I think probably within the next 5 years, we'll probably go to within 15, top 10, because of they're very much people, culture, working together, and they have all financial companies. So that's been helpful, Megan. So usually a financial representative for One Digital will recommend a client or other financial companies that we work with. So if the high-end client is having a problem, I have many Zoom meetings like this where I have the lawyer on one end and I have the financial advisor on another. And that's been a pretty incredible thing for me to do it at my age, something I didn't think I'd be doing, to speak to. I was never a math whiz. So all of a sudden talking to all these financial Wall Street people, but they are more, expect more, but it's become, you get a lot of help.
Yeah.
And I like talking to people too and meeting people. So through the high net worth, you're meeting their financial advisors, their lawyers, and you're kind of all coming together to do, whether it's the insurance proposal, a claim. So that's something that it makes it easier. So it's kind of, they're more demanding. There's no question.
Yeah.
Because then sometimes when they say meet with my lawyer, it's not a good thing. When they're saying that,
I mean,
get this
many
done.
times when someone says that, it's probably gonna start off maybe not being the best of meetings. Doesn't mean it won't end as a good meeting, but it might start.
Yeah.
So did you go right from your initial company into this job, or did you have something else in between?
No, I didn't. I was with it for 25 years. I thought that I would stay there. And what happened is I eventually, after Sandy stopped, I went out of the claim region, because most of the people that I helped with Sandy were higher end, or high net worth customers. I went into sales from that, and I dealt with a lot of the executives and doing their insurance. So I did that for a while, and then they asked me to become the head trainer and head of the umbrella section. So I did a lot of umbrella, and after that, things started. I felt that I had gone as far as I was going to go there, and so I decided to do some interviewing, which is another, I could probably write a book about that.
Yeah.
5 years. That was pretty interesting. And One Digital actually came and recruited me. I had already done, I think, 2 companies that I was in the middle of an interview with. And I came in and met Chuck and Ron, who are the principals of the company, in for California and Pennsylvania. And I remember my hand was shaking in the office waiting for, I said, why am my hand shaking? I have a job that I like. This is it. And as soon as I saw them, I knew. And I was kind of ready to take this on. And I'm so glad I have.
Yeah, maybe your hand was shaking because you were nervous just about the possibility of change.
Yes,
You
I
know?
was. I had been there. It wasn't something that I didn't like or wasn't it was a great company. So, and I think to take on this challenge, it was a lot because you don't know if you're going to like it or
Yeah.
it's going to be something. And I have to say, I love people. You're not supposed to love your job, but I love coming in every day. I love everyone who works here. And the great part about One Digital is the culture, having the high net worth, as you said, you have to call around to different people in Chicago or Boston and deal with so many different levels of employee benefits representatives and lawyers and financial. And there hasn't been one person who hasn't taken the call, hasn't done a Zoom meeting. I don't know how they did it, but the culture here is so open to helping somebody. So I wouldn't do as well as I do without that support.
Yeah. But so one thing I wanted to ask you this because now you said you could write a book on it. So I'm very curious. And you mentioned the interview process. So like, what was like, because interviews are, you know, they're difficult and it's an art. Like if you get out of the habit and you haven't done it for a while, you could be very rusty at that process. So, you know, how was diving back into the interview process? I imagine it was not super easy at first.
Was very rusty. It was very much, I remember the first interview I did, it was almost like a police lineup. It was me on one side and there was 7 people interviewing me. And I tried to keep up with each 7 people and nodding and I tried to do some just talk naturally, and I thought it went, I guess, well. And then I thought I was going to get an offer right there. Like I remember, no, you went on for say 5 interviews.
Oh gosh!
After that, and then you had to interview the last person. So I had only gone on, and then there was another one, and the person was pretty rude. And difficult. So I was in the middle of that when One Digital came. So that's why I think it's amazing how it came to me. I feel pretty lucky because my mom said to me, if a company is that way interviewing, imagine what they're going to work for. So
well, that's what I was just going to say. I was like, being rude in an interview is a whole nother level because, you know, like you are also looking at your impression of this potential employer, and if the person you're meeting with is rude or acts like they have better things to do or you're wasting their time, like, I mean, I get it if you're putting off a vibe, not saying that you were, but theoretically speaking, if the interviewee was like putting off a vibe, they didn't care to be there, like I would understand like having maybe like a negative interaction. But like overall, like if you're conducting an interview, you should be enthusiastic too. Like you should, I mean, yeah, right there I'd be like, no thanks, pass. Like how soon can I get out of here?
Yeah, this sounds great.
So, it's interesting the way that you're talking about your career trajectory, because I feel like the last couple people we've had on the podcast have had very similar experiences. You like started off at the big company, got excellent training, learned the ropes, worked their way up, and then kind of got to a point that like, okay, am I staying here? And is this what I'm doing? Is this it? Or do I need to take like that uncomfortable jump and go somewhere else to continue to grow? So it's been really interesting that I just feel like that's kind of been the trend as in people in the industry who are kind of at your level. Uncomfortable leap with uncomfortable interviews.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable leap, and as uncomfortable as it makes you hopeful that you don't have to, you do have a second phase of your life, that it's not just, they are open. I think it's an interesting thing for women too, who have reached a certain age that I thought, are they going to, don't they want people out of college and no, that having all that experience turned out to be something that was a plus. And I have many friends who are in the same situation, in my age, who have some have even changed career paths. Some have even done things like that. And it's hopeful that it's not over. And I remember being at sometimes other people, and they'll say, well, I have 7 years to go until I can retire. And I have, somebody even gave me the days. I remember the number of days they had until they could retire. And it wasn't 10. I get that. It was 75,000 days until I could. And I said, I don't think I want to live like that.
No.
Yeah. It's funny. I was having this conversation the other night and with two of my friends, and one is a physician and the other is a forensic psychologist. And we were like just joking about, like, one was saying like, oh, I'm nearing retiring. I want to retire at whatever age, but like, I don't want to be done working. I just want to do something else with the last phase of my life. And then my friend who is a physician was like, she was saying like, these on calls are like killing me at this age. Like I can't bounce back, but I really love what I do. So I don't want to walk away from it. But like, what else can I do connected to what I love that I'm still doing, like what I like to do, but like maybe not having to be on call. But then we segued into like, is there some idea of some shop we could open, like those kids who opened Insomnia Cookies? Like, why can't we come up with an idea like that to do that in the last phase?
It is, and a lot of people you're right, Megan. A lot of people are doing that. They're opening shops. They're doing. I think I don't have the guts for that, but
me either.
I admire anybody who does.
But I think that everyone that we talk to is innately a certain type of person. There was somebody that we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, and she wanted to take a step back, and she opened like like kind of like an Italian ice type of place, and ended up being like wildly successful, and it was franchised, and she sold it. Like, it's, you have this idea in your head, like, oh, I'm gonna, like, I always thought like, oh, I'm gonna open a little coffee shop, and we're gonna sell soup and salad, and maybe like we can attach it to a yoga place. But it's just not in my nature to like just sit down and be like, I'm gonna have like this nice quiet lifestyle. Like if I did that, I would do it, and I would go all in. And so I don't think it matters what we're doing all the time. It's just that, like you said, you don't want your job to be something that you're counting. It's like a means to an end. You want it to be something that fulfills you and that you enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny. I went into my last company, and there was people who had been there 25 years, and they had a dinner for, and I met the former vice president. She was so happy for me. And to see that too, that they were so excited. And
yeah,
that's a big thing too. Every company should change as people should change. And you have to put that one foot forward. And I hope I'm kind of a little bit, as corny as it sounds, a little bit of inspiration for people to say that there are things out there. You may have to go through those difficult interviews, but, and things like that. And I see it with, my nieces and nephews now are in that college age and in their 20s. And I tell them all the time, you're young. If I wish someone had told me how young I was when I was 23 or 24. I remember thinking, oh my God, I have to get this job, and I have to get this and do that. And you don't think about it.
Well, and one thing that we're also seeing, a big obstacle people are facing right now is kind of recruitment and retention of the younger generation. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
We're actually doing okay with One Digital. We're bringing in, it's kind of a fun type company. I think they're doing things that are making that generation come in, and people that work for me too. That's been an adjustment and I kind of like that challenge. I'm a big talker on the phone. I'm a big get out of my desk and go into the office. And so that work for me. And in the past year, I've adjusted to them and they've adjusted to me. And we've kind of joke about it. One girl said to me, oh, I really enjoy you as a boss, but you call too much on the phone. I said, oh, I do? And they said, you can just email. And I said, and then I read somewhere that even personally, if you call somebody on the phone, is that rude?
What?
And 64% in the thing said, yes, it is. And then I asked some of my young people that I know, and they said, yeah, you don't know what they're doing. Where I said, well, don't you leave a message? And they call back. So I have to learn. I'm learning a lot from everyone else too.
Do you know what's so crazy about that is, can you imagine when you were in the beginning of your career telling your supervisor, like, you call me too much, please stop? Right? Like, I just feel like this younger generation, and like, good on them, right?
Yeah.
And then like, I think it's good on us for understanding and taking that feedback instead of being like, I don't care what you have to say, I'm your boss, like, go sit down. And I just think it's like, maybe perhaps the way that we were raised or the way that we came up in industry is like, we are becoming the bosses that we wish that we had.
That is so true. That is
Yeah.
so true. I've learned so much from people that you're right. It was such a different way. It was such a hierarchy, and you didn't tell anyone and so many talents. I have a lady who works for me. She's very young, but I see in her such talents for marketing. Right now, she's a client account executive, and she may go there, but I kind of want to push her in that direction. There's someone else I see that I think they could be a trainer. So I'm not trying to push people out of working for me fully, but I just think there's so many talents that you see, and they're open to coming in and showing you things. A lot of times they'll say to me, Kristen, you're really good at this, but if you tried this on the computer, that would help you out.
It's also funny what you're saying though about the phone, and like, why wouldn't you just email it? And sometimes it's just harder to email. Like, it takes me a much longer time to write an email than it does just to pick up the phone, because it's just easier for me to explain it, like, when I'm on the phone or what I'm thinking, because I'm writing that email might take me like 30 minutes. Now the phone could be like a 5-minute conversation.
Megan, that's the big thing that we talk about, and in our meetings and everything, where I'll say there's a time that there's nothing wrong with an email, but there's a time where we have to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And particularly, being on a claims podcast, particularly with claims.
Oh yeah.
That's not something that you can just email. So Jen, you're so right. I'm learning from them and they're learning from me. And that's where it's a great thing.
Yeah, but I love that you're so open-minded to it, right? Like, I feel like there are so many supervisors who would be like, oh, they have a better skill than me, I'm going to keep them at arm's length, but like, I love that you're trying to develop and also kind of point them in the direction, because you have all of your own experience that you can say, like, hey, you have great marketing skills, why don't you kind of take that and run with it? I really think that's special. Like, that is really a remarkable supervisor to be able to do something like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think because I understand what I think I am good at, what I'm not good, and not everyone's good at everything.
No.
And when you build that team, and One Digital's big thing is build for better. And I love that. And it's build for better, and you can't do that as one person. There's things that I just don't have those qualities. And if I can find someone who can help me with marketing, so we can do insurance proposals that are better for our clients, and someone who can train the new people that we're going to hire, that's going to make me look better.
Yeah, it's like I saw this post today on LinkedIn, and someone had posted a graphic of the difference between like a scarcity and abundance mindset. And I think that's like the nail on the head of what you're talking about too, is, you have to have an abundance mindset when you're trying to build a team and know that everyone brings a different thing to the table, versus feeling like threatened by someone having a stronger skill than you at something. And like, you're going to get much further, and things are going to work out everyone else's like talents.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm big on that. There has to be a positive with, and also if you're criticized all the time, you shut off.
Mm-hmm.
You have to bring some positive and there has to be those times too that you have that feedback that is difficult, but when they know that you care about them and you want the best for them, I think there's a different, you feel differently when someone tells you something like that. I know the supervisor that I had, manager, when I was at NJM, she was very much like that. There were things that I needed to improve on, and anytime she told me something, I wanted to do better for her.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I went to a conference last year, a women in insurance conference, earlier this year, and there was a lot of talk about like yes and, right? Like if somebody wanted you to do something, like in your instance, if somebody said like, "Hey, I need help with this marketing," and be like, "Yes, I will," and can I bring my person who is really good at this, and I think she'd bring something to the table. So like to kind of like reach back and pull somebody with you
Mm-hmm.
to make the room stronger, as opposed to like trying to do it all
Close
yourself.
the doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've talked about this on this podcast before, but I remember like early on in like when I first started like marketing and feeling personally, I would feel like threatened by other people who were also marketing. Like they're doing so much better. They're talking to so and so. Why aren't I talking to so and so? They had more meaningful and like and all it did was make me crazy, you know. And and what I should have done it had been like good for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she has her strengths, I have mine, but instead I just got in like I felt threatened by it in some way, and like why? Like what difference does it make to me? But I mean it's just growth, right? And you recognize it and you move past it. And it was early on, and you know, you have to go through those things. You don't come out just being perfect like I am now.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to take steps back where you're going to be. It's funny when you said the claims. I used to actually, manager gave me the great idea. I would go to their level. If they were angry, I became angry. If they were, I remember when I was in my 20s, when I was handling it, and a manager brought me in, and she said, "You're very good, but you need to you always go to the level they're on." And that was things like that. You remember the things that people tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get better as you do that. Now, again, did I stop going to their level? Probably not right away. Maybe it took me a couple of years, but it stays in your head.
So in your current role, how many hats do you wear? Like kind of walk us through a typical day in your life.
A typical day would be, for instance, yesterday I was down in Wayne, Pennsylvania at a conference for another company where they showed me what they can offer and things like that. And I love that. And then today I had a meeting with a marketing representative from another company. I did an application for a high-end customer. A lot of times that's not really part of my job, but I like to do that to see what the rates are and keep part of that. We had a meeting with the people that work for me directly today, where we go over where we are, what we've bound on, what proposals we have, who's called to complain about rates. Everybody get the whole list out. Again, I use this word, you're kind of a detective. Where are we going to take this person? And as you said, Jen, as your agent said, there's some people, unfortunately, and that's a hard conversation, that we really can't place you anywhere until these claims come off. The rest of the day, I have a claim that I need to call on. That's to see how that's going.
Notice how you say the rest of the day.
Yeah, I have to call them to see how the claim's going. So that could be very interesting if it's not where they would like it to be. And that's the hardest call, because the client is right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The client is correct. And how far I can take it with this insurance company, that's my job. And you have to play that hat where you're trying to fight and get in what they want paid out.
Yeah.
And sometimes they understand, sometimes they don't. But as a client representative, I always understand when they're right, that something should happen. So wish me luck today that this turns out, because the client is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Then I travel some for different things for One Digital, because there are different companies that through the employee benefits and commercial. I'll be going to Chicago soon, into Boston, and dealing with that. And luckily, we have a new our first private client vice president that One Digital has hired, and
Okay.
he is. I've met with him, and I have a meeting with him on Thursday, and he really, I think, has a lot of. He's very client centric, very employee centric. So I think that's exciting to have someone like we talked about to work who
Mm-hmm.
he comes from a very a company that really did high end. So I think he's going to take me hopefully to a next level.
Yeah. And you know, when you moved over from being at a carrier to a broker, was that, how was that transition for you?
That was a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Because working with the NFIP, we used to have to get carriers. And when NJM left the flood business because of not wanting to deal with the NFIP and wanted to deal with more private flood insurance, I had worked with carriers we had to send our clients to. We wanted to make sure they were put out in the best place, but nowhere near this. So it's been, again, interesting, but every company's the same. It really comes down to what they offer. It's how they're going to treat you during claims. If something happens, as I said, you don't want to pay more money. I know nobody wants to pay more money, but you do really want to look and ask your agent research maybe, how is this company with claims? Do they offer, when you think about Pacific Palisades, do they offer a cash out?
Mm-hmm.
If something happens, do you want to wait 3 to 4 years to rebuild? When you think of Florida, do they offer guaranteed replacement cost?
Yeah.
Are they going to have enough to rebuild with tariffs and the cost of lumber and everything coming through? That doesn't seem to be changing. The rebuilding cost keeps on getting higher, and almost everywhere it's higher than even the market values in the high end places even. So that's a big adjustment for me. But it all comes down to that ability to talk to people and hope they understand. And some you get, some you don't. But I think you can treat people well too. Some I will say, we don't have anything like Jen. We write for you. We don't have anything right now. But I always. I'm not too pushy with sales. I want people to know that you can come back to us at any time.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kristen, knowing what you know now, looking back on your career journey, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would give advice to my younger self to just take each journey along the way a little bit. Don't be so consumed with the title. I think I was a little too ambitious and was looking at everything about, as you said, Megan, why is this person getting this? Oh my God, everything kind of works out. And had I not had all those roles, I don't think I could have this role. So I would say take the journey as it takes you. Mine was kind of crazy, going from underwriting to flood to sales. But with all that, it took me to where I am now. So I would have been a little easier on myself, maybe some other people too. And that's the journey that I would take. I think it's a thing for life too. Just
that's what I was gonna say.
Things are going to happen. Not everything's going to work out. Take the long goal. And I wish I had enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yes, I say that to myself all the time. Like, I wish I wasn't so stressed out about like the next thing, and I just enjoyed the moments over the years. Because I was, I feel like I've always been worried about like the thing and stressing about the thing. And if I just had taken a breath, the thing would have still happened. I just probably would have experienced it in another way.
And this is where the younger generations, I know they get so much criticism for this and that. I think they are like that. Like I'm 23. I'm okay. I think I might do this for a while, and then I'll go into this, and you think, okay, look, they're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. The kids are going to be okay. Kristen, it was such a pleasure having you on. I'm I think this is your first podcast, right?
It is my first podcast.
So welcome. I'm so happy.
My best podcast.
Best of yes. But of course, thank you for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And of course, for everyone out there listening, if you like what you hear, please you can find us at your favorite streaming platform. Look for Claims Never Sleep. Thanks for tuning in.
This is the Claims Never Sleep podcast, presented by Cruiser Mitchell, with your host, Meghan Henry.